really sure how to do this. I haven't really done a video or walk around or whatever. It's kind of a bit weird. I'm out in the middle of the forest here talking to myself. I look like a nutcase, but anyway, I'll do a bit of a video on my Luxy here and yeah, show you, I guess, what I've done. Probably forget a few things, but we'll see how we go. I'll run you through a few things like the suspension and yeah, gearing and diffs and bits and pieces, and yeah, see what we come up with. These things are a good little canvas, good little blank canvas to start from. Super easy to work on and a good budget-friendly build. I didn't want to spend a stupid amount of money. That's why I sort of didn't want to go down the road of sassing the N70 and put all my eggs in one basket. So I thought, bugger it, why not build a ute for less than the cost of sassing my original ute? Then I have two. If I break one, I've got a spare, which always seems to be the case. There's always one of them on the hoist at any given time. There's a fair bit going on at the front end. Big shock towers mounted to a chassis brace kit that I got. Made some custom bump stop mounts there with 80 series bump stops. They actually weren't long enough because usually you're meant to run a two-wheel drive sample or not for sump, because actually this bar here smacks up into that and you can see a bit of damage there. Even with the massive bump stops, it still smashes into it. So one day I'll end up putting a two-wheel drive sump on that and doing it all properly. Always a work in progress. So hanging off those towers, the shocks, I've actually got a set of patrol rears. They're 13.5 inches of travel from Superior. Just their cheapest shock they're done. I found it was long enough to suit the needs of this front end, and yeah, they work really good. I thought they'd be a bit harsh, the valving wise. It is a leaf spring ute, so it's not coils, that's for sure. But yeah, look, I've been really surprised in how they've held up, being, you know, a shock that I thought would be quite harsh. So the front's pretty much at its max now. I wouldn't say there's much more in it. That shock's most of the way down. This one up here, if I can get the camera into it, still got a little bit to compress over this side, but tyres still got a fair bit of room. I'm yet to see if I can run 35s under it. 33s are enough for what I'm doing, but you see how much those 80 series bump stops squish up. They're awesome. I'd recommend anyone who's looking at getting a bump stop, whether it's front or rear, go straight to 80 series. They've been great, and both utes been a really good thing. So the leaves in the front of it, they're actually out of the model up from this. So I'm pretty sure it's a 2004 Toyota Hilux. They're actually the rear leaf springs in it. So RUF or rough, it's actually rear on the front. That's what that means. So another little term I had to get my head around, working out what the hell that meant. Ended up putting some of these shackles on it. They call them banana shackles, I guess, because of the shape of them. They ended up hitting on here, which I guess is what they're designed to do. Stop the shackle from inverting. They work really well. Get a lot of travel out of them. They ride nice and comfortable. I ended up putting an extra spring retainer in, leaf retainer in, because I got a heap of axle wrap in the front end, and it looked gross. You know, pinion angles were disgusting. They were really huge, and I was just really scared about that uni. So, ended up limiting the front travel a fair bit by putting these in. This one here doesn't work very well; it just keeps bending open. So, went for the bolt option there with a really heavy override spring. That's actually out of a rear Hilux leaf pack. The reset and the press, just like the rest of them, and it works really well. It's got a standard wrap at the front here. That hasn't come undone. That hasn't come undone yet. It's been really good, but you can sort of see the leaf setup that I got here. Quite progressive. Got the U-bolt flip kit from Superior Engineering. That worked pretty well too. Keeps those mounts from scraping in the dirt. Gives a bit more clearance. Got some knuckle gussets too. Not that I drive it very hard or anything, but I figured I'd get them on there anyway, in case I hit a hole really hard or something silly. So it's pretty important to get the front crossmember drop, just to get the pinion angle right is mainly the issue, and also to clear the steering box. It gets really close to the leaf spring there, and without it, I actually tried without it. I didn't really want to fit this because I was lazy at the time, but I had to. That nut was just wedging itself on the spring, so I really had to do that to make it all work properly. One thing that's actually been a pain in the ass is bushes in here. There's heaps of movement in them. Heaps of movement, and I kept putting Super Pro bushes in it, and they'd only last one trip. I go wheeling once and they'd be chewed out. So the bolt would be hitting on the leaf and they'd sound like crap and steer funny and all sorts of things. So ended up getting a set just from Repco. They were like $1.70 something each side. They're holed in there. They're looking like they're coming apart again now. Done a few trips with those. They're not too bad, but you can see the twist on them. And I think any bush you put in there is just going to explode, basically. Nothing really you can do about it. The high steer was one of the best things I've done for it. it changed it from a ute to more of a car. Not that it handles very well as it is now, because it's still a full drive, it's still a solid axle, but night and day improvement. If I to recommend anything, if you're driving tough tracks or whatnot, go down the road of high steer, just heaps of confidence in the steering, everything's a lot stronger. Yeah, I'm a big fan of it actually. It's been really good. So I get asked a lot of questions about the rear leaves, what they're out of, why are they so long. Yeah, heaps of questions. So basically, they're out of a Toyota Tundra. I've reset the top leaf in the press to get a heap of set on it, I guess you'd say, to help push the wheel down in the hole, let the leaf plate open up a fair bit. There's still a heap of movement in it now, the way it's sitting. The rear of these utes have always been pretty lazy. You see photos, the fronts work really well. It doesn't take much effort at all to make the fronts work, but the rears have always been a bit lazy. So I thought, bugger it, if I'm going to do it, I'll go all out. I originally had some IFS rears in it. They were a bit better, using standard mounts, longer shackles. They definitely worked a bit better than what I had in it. But I still wasn't happy with it, so I went, do a bit of research and see what people run. I found a few people run the Chevy springs, or custom springs, and I thought, I kind of want something that I can get off the shelf, in case I ever break one or bend one, I can get it quite easily. Had to move the front mount from here all the way to there, so that brought that heaps further forward. There's a heap less angle in the leaf now, so when the wheel's dropping down into a hole, there's not as much chance of bending the top leaf as well. I'm going to run retainers in here as well, not that it has axle tramp, but just in case I get really hung up on a big hill and I have to give it the berries, not that it has any to start with. Can let out 40 horsepower. 80 series bump stops in the rear as well. They work great. They're just such a comfortable bump stop. You hit stuff way too hard and they soak it up really well. Just mounted straight into the standard bump stop striker plate, just with a big bolt. They were super easy to fit. I'd recommend anyone to give that a crack with these Luxes. They just work so well. If you need to shorten it, just get an axle, cut the bottom knob off. I've done that with the N60, they still work the same. Yeah, really good bump stop. I went for quite a steep shackle angle, so that's pretty much fully compressed as it is there, tucked up into the guard. I wanted that because I wanted to keep it as low as I could, but I figured the more of an angle the shackle's on, the comfier it's going to be and the more wheel travel it's going to have. Probably could have pushed the front mount a little bit further forward to get this shackle to fully open up, to get this wheel to drop down a little bit more. But hey, you learn as you go along, so it works really well for what I'm doing. I'm super happy with how it turns out. Always could make it a little bit better, but for me it's been really well, been really good. Rear shocks are just out of a Nissan Patrol again. They're just 12-inch rears. They've been really good. They're still pretty comfy. They're on a huge angle. If I was to do it again, I wouldn't put them on such a big angle. It just kind of looks silly and they don't dampen very well. But in saying that, I guess because they're such a heavily valved shock for this car, putting them on that big angle takes a bit of the valving out of them anyway. So hey, it works. So one of my, I think it was the third time actually out forward driving in this ute, I put it on its side down a hill at Glasshouse, and it was my own fault. I just put the front into a hole and tapped the brakes, just went over really slow. It kind of scared me a bit of how easy it went over, so I thought, okay, what can I do here to make it wider? I was already running 30mm wheel spaces as it was, but I thought, what can I look into to making it wider again? So I thought, I got to make this thing wider. So I looked down the road of different diff housings and bits and pieces, but that was all too hard. Easiest solution was just a set of hub spaces. So it's got hub spaces on there at the moment, plus the Nitto 22 offset rims. That makes the front work pretty well. The rear's actually got a later model rear housing and axles. Also the handbrake cable out of a later model Hilux. It made it substantially wider in the rear, and also I'm running 30mm wheel spaces in the back too for when I go off-road, just to make it even wider again, because more the better, there's a chance of falling over, and it helps the rear work a little bit too. I found the wider the axle, cause the more leverage on it, the more wheel travel you get. So originally when I bought the ute, it had a set of Conforcer tyres on it, a set of muddies. They actually surprised the hell out of me. They're a really cheap tyre, but they seem to work really well. They're quite soft and they're actually wearing really quick. Not that I did many Ks on them when I first bought this thing, but they were wearing really fast. So I thought, what can I go down the road over? What tyre can I use? I've used Nittos in the past, a few other different brands, and I just really like the look at Nittos and how they hook up. I know I can let them down a ridiculous amount before I do a bead, so it just seemed like the best option. Done a bit of research, looked around on Facebook and found out a guy who was selling them quite cheap, and yeah, went down the road to Nittos. They're not a big tyre, they're just a 33, 12.5, 15. Yeah, they've been a great tyre. They bag out really great. Had them down at crazy low pressures. Usually I started wheeling around about 14 pound, and then drop them down from there. I've had them as low as 8 before, and still have never done a bead on it. Done some pretty silly things. Yeah, really pumped. I've always thought about going down the road to bead locks, but until I actually have a problem with doing beads, I'm just going to stay with the Steelies for now. Try and keep it as budget as I can without going too silly. So that's about all with the suspension I can sort of think of. Keeping it pretty simple, touching on most things that are there. I guess I'll start going around with bar work. So looked around for some bar work, different people, found out these ones here seem to be a really great bar. Went to a local bloke who done my brush bars as well. Never bent them, they've been really good as well. Just got them mounted up straight to the bull bar. It's actually a TJM bar, and yeah, resprayed the bar, brushies, sliders and tray all in one go over a few weekends, and yeah, come up really mint. The original alloy tray on it was pus, it was just too light, rode like crap, so I thought, alright, I want to get some weight on it for starters. Ended up finding a bloke on Facebook Marketplace again, and yeah, swap trays, clean swap. He got my alloy one, which is what suited him for touring, something nice and light, and I actually wanted something heavy, so worked out for both of us really well. This tray was actually off an N60 Hilux, so I had to change the mounts around a fair bit. This section here used to continue on all the way back to that section. Had to cut that out. Found some scrap steel at work to fit that in there. Welded these bracings in, and yeah, made my own little mounts and bits and pieces. And the thing hasn't budged. It's been a really good tray, really strong. Put up against banks all the time and all sorts of silly things. Only real issue is tailgate's got a little whoop in it, but apart from that, it's been bloody awesome. It's been a really good tray. Done a bit of mucking around as you do. I used to have some hoops on here. They got bent, I think the first trip out. Tucked the lights back a little bit. Managed to not snap them off yet. Touch wood. That'll probably be next trip. Yeah, I've said it. But yeah, no, it's been really good. Ended up wrecking a set of guards, so I thought, oh, I'll look for the set of aluminium guards for it. Ended up finding a cheap set once again on Marketplace. Guy bought them brand new. Didn't end up fitting them, so I put them on here. Primed them, painted them. Look, $1 million. I had second trip out. Didn't last very long. Done a bit of character building on it. Bent the guard in a little bit and broke the mounts. That was held on and that, but nah, that's what they're there for. So it's twin locked, twin auto lockers. They've been great. Look, for the money, they've been a really good locker. Can't really complain. I would have preferred selectables, just for the fact that it's funny. It actually, I prefer driving things unlock sometimes. Having a twin lock ute that you can't have the choice of making tracks hard kind of takes the fun out of some hills and some tracks. It's been amazing twin locked. I'd highly recommend it. If you're on a budget, go the auto lockers. They're a great thing. Haven't had a drama with them, but if you've got the coin to spend, get something selectable. That would be my preference, 100%. Transfer case, I've got reduction gears in it from Trail Gear. They're awesome. They are pretty low. The reductions are pretty low, like too low for what I usually do. I'd love to put a twin transfer kit in it, twin sticks. That was one of the better things I've done as well. Just made it so much better off-road. Just amazing ability to crawl. Probably a little bit too slow. The reductions are quite low. It's still got stock 4.3 diff gears. I would probably prefer to have, well, I know I would prefer to have twin sticks, but just the cost for what I was using it for, just standard reductions will do for me. I don't take it up the beach or anything like that. It's purely just for hard tracks. Interior is all pretty basic. It's actually really tidy. That was one of the reasons why I bought it. Yeah, everything's just clean, everything's original, everything's in one place. I've gone for just some basic gauges, just boost, pyro, oil pressure, and water temp. That's all I really needed. Yeah, heaps of data in those gauges. They're pretty cheap gauges, get from Super Cheap Auto. They do the job. Yeah, once again, just a budget build, so I just went for some cheap gauges I could find. They work pretty well. Exhaust on it, it's really simple. Just a 3-inch into a flexi, into a really small hot dog, and then it just dumps out. Sounds a bit like a tractor, but what diesel doesn't. 12 volt, really minimalistic. Basically just got a box here from Bunnings. Just mounted the battery in there, compressors in there. There's just a wire there that leads straight to the battery under the bonnet. So they're always connected unless I disconnect it. Just simply put a Anderson plug in there to disconnect the two to separate them. So when I'm out camping, just got a little fridge that sits just in there. Plug it straight in, away it goes. It's all really simple. In here I just have all my spares, bits and pieces. Used to carry CVs and bloody bits and pieces and things, but I'm working out sort of what breaks and what doesn't. So yeah, slowly taking less and less crap, which is always good. Just got a cheap little radio. Got on sale one day. I'll be honest, it's pretty pus. I can barely hear anyone through it. It's just my cheap little Oricom unit. I actually use this one up here more often because I can actually hear it. It's not very loud, but I just really can't hear it in the spot I put it. I was originally going to put it up here. I didn't really drill through the dash. I want to keep it all as original as I can. Switches and bits and pieces. That's there. It's all pretty straightforward. The only real thing I've done that's kind of cool that I like is that my winch controller. So I've actually put a switch here, so I don't need to run a wire out through the cab. Don't need to pop the bonnet. If I find a hard hill or a hard piece of track, I'll lift the bonnet, turn the isolator on, and yeah, basically just winch in, winch out from that controller there, which makes things heaps easier. Under the bonnet, nothing special. Just a standard 2.8 litre motor. It's an absolute slug. It's got a CT20 bolted to the side of it. It's pus. Put an 18 pound through it. It still doesn't move. It's really slow and it gets hot, and yeah, it's pretty average. But yeah, that's as far as it all goes under there. It's got an alloy radiator. I'm not sure if it's a good thing or not. I'd probably prefer a standard radiator because I heard these things crack. Water temp, little sender unit there. Still got stock aircon. Aircon's cold as. It's awesome, really good. Got a electrical fuse panel there with all my stuff in it. It's just out of the boat actually. It works really well. I know what's going on at all times in case the fuse blows or whatnot. Fuel filter there, they're all pretty standard. Airbox is standard. I probably would have put a better airbox in it one day if I ever upgrade the turbo. Just put a K&N filter in there at the moment just to keep it all going well. One thing that I did do, so I was a bit unsure, I'm a bit sus on these older utes with old tanks and things. I ended up putting a diesel filter just in here, and it's got a clear bowl on it, which I think's awesome. So if I ever see any crap in, I can just unscrew that bottom cap and just drain any rust or sediment or scale or water or whatever the hell was in the tank at the time, which I thought was an awesome idea. So that's pretty much it. I've probably forgotten a few things. I'll get home and go, oh, shit, should have said this, but yeah, a bit of a rundown of the ute. Gives you a bit of an idea of what's going into it and how things are done. Thanks for watching, guys. I've always wanted to do a bit of a video like this before. You know, string it all together. When I was originally looking to build this ute, I didn't really find one video that had it all in it, so I thought I'd have a crack myself and see what I can come up with. Yeah, hopefully it was enjoyable. Hopefully you got through it. If you got here, good on you. If not, then, well, terrible. This is my first time doing any sort of video like this, but yeah, I'm going to shoot home, get a feed, and yeah, I might do another one day. I might put a few more videos up, a bit of forbian, something different, see what